Does this mean? Sorry, does this meeting?
Yes.
Does this meeting start at 6 o'clock?
Yeah. It's going to start right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to London Emerging Tech Meetup.
Coming, baby.
Kindly mute your mic. If you have any questions, of course, you can unmute and we can discuss. Until that, you can mute your mic. Okay. So in today's session, we are going to look at blockchain technology. Specifically, we are focusing on the blockchain development side. How you can develop blockchain application. What are the tools and technologies that you need to learn in order to build application onto the blockchain platform. So we are going to start with the introduction. Then we are going to look at tools. What are the development tools that is available? What are the programming languages you need to learn? What are the tools you need to download? And it will be a more practical session, and even we'll be sharing the recording. You can also look at after this meetup as well. So we'll be covering a lot of these tools and technologies in this particular session. Any questions? So if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself. You can ask. Also, you can post in the chat box as well. So we have around today's session 178 registered members in the meetup. So we are expecting a few more members to join today's meetup. So in today's one, we are focusing on the blockchain development side, where we look at development tools and technologies that is available to you to create application. I think most of you are here familiar with the blockchain technology itself, but here in this session, we focus how you can build applications. So you may use a lot of these applications day to day. So we are looking at how to create applications like that. What are the tools?
Sorry, I've just got a question. What is an Ethereum?
So Ethereum is a blockchain network. That's one of the network that we are looking at to create applications. So I think you know about Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is one of the main blockchain networks. Similar to that, we have Ethereum, which is the similar blockchain network that we can use to create applications. So it's one of the ways. So I'll be covering that in the session also. And
okay,
also,
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Right. Okay. So let's get started. Okay. Okay, so blockchain, you can see, is essentially a distributed database. It's really popular these days, where we can use for a lot of financial applications, and now it's more popular in non-financial applications as well. For example, NFT and a lot of other related applications. But started with Bitcoin like couple of around 2008 time. Then we have seen the rise of the blockchain technology with a lot of different blockchain networks and the blockchain technology landscape, right? So these are other things like in the financial sector, you know, London is one of the main financial sector. So in that, you can use for issuing stocks and bonds, things like that. Then insurance sector, land registry, where you can verify this kind of information much more effectively, right? In that, right? So the supply chain integrity is really good. So there are a lot of startups work on this area. You can see those startup companies really flourish and got a lot of investment also in the supply chain side, because you can see the supply chain disruptions that we see these days. Because of that reason, there's a lot of kind of startups and companies got a lot of support for the blockchain use cases and their solutions. So you can see how the blockchain works. So it's a immutable ledger that is connected in a node in the internet. So there are separate set of networks like that. So Ethereum is one of the main popular network. And other than that, we have Binance Chain, Tron. So likewise, there are a lot of different networks are there. So these networks also associated with the specific set of the coins or the particular currency. So we call as cryptocurrency. So there are particular set of currencies also associated with this particular blockchain network. So as a developer, what we are doing is we are creating these applications into the blockchain network. So you can create any applications that we discuss like this into the blockchain network, right? So there are a lot of use cases and a lot of ways that we can create. So the today's session, we are focusing on that side, how you can create application and how you can build the software on top of the blockchain network, right? So this is a kind of a validation that we use. So it used a lot of complex mathematical calculation to verify and create a new block. So that's why there's a process called mining that is also really popular. So the mining process will generate a new block in the blockchain network and is enable running our particular application. So if you look at the Bitcoin as a blockchain network, it can only hold the particular currency. But if you look at Ethereum, where we can build application, right? So there are a lot of kind of work that we can put in the Ethereum side. So it enables the virtual machine inside the Ethereum node where we can build our own application. So we can develop our own applications in the Ethereum network. So in the today's session, we are focusing on that. We look at how we can create applications and how we can develop applications in this. Okay. So the blockchain mining, you can see, is a process that there are a lot of mining softwares and mining hardware that we can use to generate these kind of cryptocurrencies, right? So based on the different type of mining process. So there are like a lot of applications, software side and the hardware side that we can have to create these kind of a mining process. And it's really costly. It consume a lot of electricity. So it's not green at all. Because it's consumed a lot of electricity and computing power to create a new kind of a node. It depends on any blockchain network, but there are now research ongoing to figure it out new type of kind of a blockchain that is more sustainable, more lightweight, like that. So there are now research and some proof of concepts are there in order to go to this kind of a new blockchain, because Bitcoin to generate one take a lot of electricity and a lot of consumption, a lot of energy in the world. So there's a downside of that, but still people will buy that, and you can see the by the value of the particular currency. That's why the people are going into the application side. There are a lot of applications that we can build, and complete ecosystems are built because of that reason, completely using blockchain network. So the wallet is the main connecting application. So there are a lot of wallet applications that we can use. So the wallet is a connecting point for this blockchain application. So one popular wallet is MetaMask. I think most of you are maybe using MetaMask like that. So you can see the MetaMask is one of the main blockchain wallet that is out there. And other than that, we have Binance wallet, Tron wallet. Likewise, there are many other wallets that we can connect. Now we have applications that can connect cross wallet as well. So we purchase or we do some activity in a particular network, and it can connect to other networks as well. So now we have this kind of a capability where we can connect with multiple type of blockchain network using one application. It used to be only for one type of blockchain and network and application, but now there's interconnectivity between multiple blockchain applications that we can use to connect. So the MetaMask is the main software that we can connect. So here you can see, you can easily download the MetaMask in your browser, and you can enable that. So it uses the high-end security for you to work with the blockchain, and it can directly connect to Ethereum, and also it can connect to other kind of a blockchain networks as well. There are ways that we can connect to a lot of other blockchain network, and also like there are test blockchain network that we can use to test our application. You know, as a developer, when you build application, first we need to test it out. We need to see whether it's working, if there's any bugs, things like that. So because of that, most of these blockchain networks have their own test networks. So in these test networks, you can see we can test it out for look at any issues, any bugs like that. And based on that, we can deploy into the live network. So in the Ethereum side, we have test networks like Ringby, Coven, Rospan, like that. There are a lot of test networks, and we can even get test credits for test out these kind of networks, right? So you can go to these kind of test networks, and you can see. So here you can see in this particular one, this is MetaMask. So you can see there are a lot of test networks that we can get, and we can build application. We can test out the application using this test network. And if you go to the Binance wallet, there's a Binance wallet. Yeah, we can get the test network there. Then we have the Tron wallet like that. So all these the blockchain networks have their own test network to test out these things, right? So using the test network, we can easily test out our application, because what happened is in the blockchain, once you publish to the blockchain, you cannot delete the record. It's just updating the existing record because of the permission that it used in the blockchain architecture. So we cannot delete the record. It's just putting into the existing record. So because of that, it's really important to test it out, this application, before actually deploying into the blockchain network. And there are new blockchain networks like Cardano and other networks that is also getting really momentum because, as I mentioned, each of these blockchain networks have their own unique story, like maybe lightweight, maybe the performance. Likewise, they have their own kind of a unique way of presenting their technology. So here you can see some of the cryptocurrencies there. There's underlying blockchain network that is associated with there. So if you want to build application for this specific kind of a currency, then you need to be familiar with the relevant technology stack, right? So here, that is the one we are focusing in this particular meetup, where we look at the technology stack that you need to have. One of the main technology stack we are going to look at, but depend on the other type of blockchain, this technology stack will differ from different technologies. So Ethereum is, as everyone knows, one of the main blockchain network that is really helpful to create an application. So using Ethereum, we can build a lot of applications. So there are now a lot of popular applications like, OpenSea for popular NFT marketplace. So likewise, we can create our own NFT marketplace. We can create our own exchange, and we can post and publish into the Ethereum network. Then you need to know about the relevant set of tool set, right? So what is the technology tool set that you need to get familiar to work on the Ethereum blockchain? So that is what we are highlighting, and we are going to do some practicals as well. Since this session is recording, you can also take a look at it later as well. What kind of tools you need to use that. So you can see use of Ethereum is a general purpose blockchain network. So main way the Ethereum was created, where we can build application into the blockchain network. It's more like creating a mobile application, Android application. We can create our own Android application, iOS application, and put into a marketplace. So likewise, we can create our own blockchain application, and we can put into the blockchain Ethereum network. So they have developed this network like that, where they open up the ecosystem for developers to build the application and run in the Ethereum network. So that's why there are a lot of applications in the corporate side. There are a lot of the corporate solutions, and the public side, there are a lot of solutions for consumers. So like OpenSea is really good example. You can see one of the biggest NFT marketplace in the world. If you look at the total valuation, is in really big number. So likewise, there are a lot of creativeness, openness they have opened up for companies, individual, to create blockchain applications and put into the Ethereum network. So can see I think everyone familiar with the founder. So he's really young guy, and he's the one who founded. His father was cryptocurrency, working on cryptocurrency trading. He has seen some limitations on the Bitcoin. Because of that, he found this technology, and now they are releasing the latest version of the Ethereum as well, where he's now is a billionaire because of the market cap and his valuations, and they keep innovating. And there are a lot of follow-up blockchain after the Ethereum network. Now you can see a lot of like Cardano and a lot of new blockchain networks are there that follow up by starting from this. Because if we had only the Bitcoin, we cannot do any of that. It's only we can do trading, but it enable new kind of technology innovation. So NFT these days like that, but like that time to time there'll be new, like metaverse is one area, Decentraland, where we can virtually create virtual items, and we can create a metaverse kind of application. So likewise, you can see new trends are opening up, and Web 3.0 kind of technologies opening up into the blockchain itself. So the main type of application type you need to work on is called smart contract. So you need to write a smart contract in order to interact with the blockchain. So if you are coming from a programming background, smart contract is more like the class. So if you are coming from a programming background, smart contract is more like the class. We call it object-oriented programming, more like a class, a real-world entity. So the smart contract is a definition of that, where we can define a particular set of instructions that can run in the blockchain network. So there are like, we can create a smart contract for almost anything, right? So we can set a set of rules in the smart contract, and then we can build this into our application. So Solidity is the main language that we can use to create smart contract. So Solidity is one of the main language you need to get familiar. So it have a similarity from C# and Java. So if you are coming from a programming side, there are similarities from C# and Java for the Solidity. But of course, you need to familiar with the C# and Java. So that is the one, because if you are coming from a programming side, you need to familiar with this programming language, Solidity, then only you can develop application. And they have also not only created the language, they have created their own technology infrastructure, a tool set, right? So let's look at one by one. The one tool set is the remix editor. So the remix editor, you can see where the remix editor, what you can do is you can create this smart contract, right? So this is the remix editor. So in the remix editor, you can go to remix.ethereum.org, where you can create your own smart contract. And here you can see you can test out and you can build the application. So that is the one tool they have given. So for single contract or like 2-3 contracts, we can easily use the remix editor, and we can use the particular set of technologies that they are providing. Let's say we are going to create hello.sol. So SOL is the extension for the, you can see for the blockchain application. We call as Solidity file. So if it is Python, you know, just py. So similarly, SOL is for the Solidity file. So here we look at how we can write a simple Solidity code. So we will write one which is for student. So we look at how we can write the student contract, how we can implement that. So the first thing you need to do is you need to import a particular library. You need to import a particular library in order to use that. So there are a lot of different versions of Solidity there that you need to familiar. So as if you are coming from development background, you may know that there are different versions of any specific programming language. So likewise, you need to get familiar with this particular version. So here you can see, we can say like this Pragma. Then we can say the Solidity version. So here we can say Solidity, and we can create the Solidity, the language version. So there are many different Solidity language versions that we can use. So each of these versions have a different set of features that we can use. So we are using for this particular demo 0.8.4. Then we can create a contract. So contract is more like a class in a normal programming, software development, web development is more like a class. In blockchain, we call as a contract. Then we can give a name for this contract. Let's say student contract, right? Student contract, right? Like this. Then we can use brackets to define open and close section of the contract, like this. So within this, we can define the contract, what we are going to do. So within this, we need to define variables to do the specific data types. For example, let's say if you are going to use students, we need to represent by student ID, first name, last name, age, things like that. Then we can represent some activity, like let's say add student. we can represent that, how we can adding a student into this blockchain. So likewise, we need to define these kind of different characteristics into this. So here you can see, let me copy some of the things to save the time. So here I'm creating a few variables. So here I'm creating a student count, and also I'm creating a student group. It's called mapping student structure into student group. Then I need to create a structure. That means I need to define student. So what is the characteristics of a student? So in this particular contract, we are going to have student ID, first name, last name, age as a characteristics for student, right? So we are going to have student ID, then we are going to have first name, last name, age as the characteristics for the student. So these are some of the characteristics that we can use to define student data structure. Then we have student group and a student count. So after that, what you can do is we can create a function, right? So these are variables and data structures. So if you are coming from programming side, you have some idea. Otherwise, you need to get familiar with some of the basic programming things like variables, data structures, functions. So these are common in any language. Don't need to be Solidity, any language. These are common things. So on the Solidity only, we are using this particular technique to use this. So here you can see in this one, we are using the student ID, first name, last name, age. Then we have the, we can define the student function like this. Right, so we can define the student function. Right, so we can define the student function like this. So add the student where we call increment count and the student group, right? This one. So this is a function that we can create, right? So the mapping, there's a question regarding mapping. So mapping is a special keyword that we are using. So we are going to map the structure of this data into student group. So that means, like let's say a university, like we can define student, then student group is more like a department, let's say IT department, engineering department, like that. So that we can use mapping. So there are some differentiation from some general programming language that you need to be familiar in the Solidity fundamentals. So here in this particular section, we are looking at the fundamentals of, more like a pointer, but not exactly, but there are some similarity to pointer, the C++, language side. Okay, right. Then finally, we have this increment counter that we need to implement. So here you can see we can have the increment counter implement like this. So here we are going to implement the increment counter. So this is a method that every time we added a new record, it will be increment by 1. So like in actual record. So it will be permanently write into the blockchain. So every time new record comes in, we can add the ID. It will create ID. Then we can add the first name, last name, and age. Then it will increment automatically the record by 1. So where you can see using the increment counter. So likewise, the real world activity. So the actions we can put into the smart contract. So we need to define this kind of a set of the contract, smart contract. So if you are having like 1 file, 2 file like this, we can directly actually deploy this from Remix itself to a even live blockchain. It's simple as that, where you can use the scan like website to see the actual features of that. But when you want to create a website or platform like actual blockchain site, like let's say NFT, a portal, then there are more things to do. You need to connect smart contract with the UI, user interface. So that is also we are going to look at, but not in detail in this one. Maybe later session we look at in detail. So you need to connect then the blockchain, the smart contract with the front end side of things. That's how the blockchain applications can be, like websites or mobile apps can be created. But if it is a very simple, very basic contract, even this one using Remix tool itself, we can deploy to live blockchain as well. So it will be running in the live blockchain, but there's no user interface. So it's really good for technical people, but technical people means people who know how to interact with blockchain, but not a more everyday average consumer. So they expect website user interface, nice looking user interface where they can connect their wallet, they can put their currencies, and they can do whatever the activities. Let's say NFT, they want to buy some items. Decentraland, they want to buy a virtual character like that. So that is where the front end side of things can be connected. I'll be showing like how to connect that side as well in this particular session. So you can see like this, we can add a particular set of instructions. And then once you have all this information, you can go to this option, which is called Solidity compiler, and we can compile. So here you can see it's compiled with a warning. So warnings are actually is fine, but of course you can look at what kind of warnings. But if there's an error, you cannot go forward. The most common error is the version error, because some methods are not supporting for a specific version. Then you need to familiar with the specific version that is going to support, and you need to build according to that. That is a version related error. There are other errors as well. So that is depend on the practice you will get. So here is a warning that is okay, that we can continue to the next one. That means this is successfully compiled at the moment. Then you can go to this third tab, right? And here you can see we have JavaScript VM connecting London, then VM Berlin. Then even we can connect actual our wallet as well. So here you can see it connected to the Web3 providers. If there's a manual provider also we can connect, or we can connect from the Web3. So I already connected before the session. So you can see it's connected here. So here you can see remix.ethereum.org. So my wallet is connected here. So that means I can directly, so if it is ring B, I can go to main Ethereum, and this particular contract I can deploy from Remix to the main Ethereum as well. But remember, this is good for one small contract, two contracts like that, where when you have a solution or web interface, that's a different story altogether. But this is one contract that is more toward technical, like a blockchain users, blockchain advanced users. If you are sharing, then you can just stop from here and you can use this feature. But if you are creating application for average user, average customer, consumer, then you need to think about the user interface side of things as well. For example, there need to be interface to enter the first name, there need to be interface to enter last name, age, like that. At the moment, you can see it's all from the blockchain itself we can enter. So let's go to the last step of this, where I will select this test account, where I get 100 ethers like this. Then what I can do is I can select the contract, then I can deploy. So there are two things you need to do. First thing is build, then deploy. So we did the build, that means compile, success. Now we can deploy. So where it's going to deploy? It's going to deploy JavaScript VM London account. We can select any account. These are free account. These are not actual 100 ethers. These are just test free account, virtual account, not even test account in the wallet. These are just virtual accounts inside the Remix. Then I can click deploy. Then you can see it's deploy the contract. So now in here, you can see the contract and the methods. So now we can call this method. So you can see I have created a student method, and you can see it's asking the first name, last name, and age. So this is good for advanced blockchain user. So they already familiar with this setup, but this is not good for the average consumer, because they looking at the user interface where you need to have a website. Let's say we are building this as a website, then you need to have a web address, then you need to have web input where they can enter the student information, like student name, address, age, things like that. So let's add the right. Then we can add the age like this. Then you can click the transact. Then you can see is did that transaction. You can see that step transaction has the gas used, transaction cost, all this, because we use the test account. It's just deducted from the test account. Then what we can do is I can click student count, and you can see it increment by 1. Then let's say I enter another information. I just quickly like this. Then I can click the count. Can see increment by 2. So this is permanently in the blockchain network. Permanently, right? You cannot delete this, right? So it's distributed, it's written into the blockchain network. But remember, we didn't written into the live blockchain or test. It's just a virtual account we created. You can see now this is 99.99 because it's deducted that virtual amount into that. So like that, we can test out. Even using this tool, you can connect to actual the wallet, and from the wallet itself, if you are having the Ether, you can deploy this one. But this is good with the advanced blockchain users, because advanced blockchain users know how to go to the Ether scan and do the transactions, right? But not a average customer. For the customer itself or the consumers, we need to show this in a web interface. So we need to show in a website, nice looking website with really good UI UX. We need to show like enter user information, connect the wallet button, things like that. Let's say we are building the same thing as a website, then we need to connect that. So that's how the blockchain application can be created, right? So that is, you can see a step-by-step procedure to connect all the dots to create the application. Then if you want to test out the blockchain networks, so there are a lot of options they have given. That is really good for developers. So because testing on the live blockchain is really risky in two parts of things. One is really costlier because you need to use actual money to test out. Then also you cannot delete. It will be permanently right into the actual blockchain network. So that's why you have a test environment. You can use multiple test environment. So in here you can use in the wallet. You can see there's this Rospan, Coven, like different blockchain networks that you can use to test out in the test Ethereum network. So similarly, Binance chain have its own test network. A lot of these chains have their own test network that we can easily configure and we can use. So in the Remix side, they are giving their own virtual test network like that. And there's another software I want to highlight, which is called Ganache. So here in the Ganache tool, you can download for free. You can see it's giving a local blockchain network. So you can see there's a mining happening here. There are transaction logs and all this. So you will get a local. You can see this is a desktop application. I'm running this in my desktop. So this is a desktop application. So when you are testing these things in your machine locally, also you can use this one to configure and test out. So this is a really good kind of software, again provided by the Ethereum and supported network, the technology company, where we can test out this application locally before we are actually practicing. Because the application development is entirely different practice, where we need to plan the application, UI UX, assign a team, and then build this component together, then test it out, then do a testing, and then deploy the application. So likewise, so this tool helps you to test out using Ganache tool. You can test out your application and you can build according to that. So that is a really helpful tool. I would recommend you to use this tool, Ganache tool, to use the development purposes. Then there's another set of tools, right? Another set of tools that we are going to use. Let's go back to the slide. So you can see this is another example on Solidity. So this one is a very basic example than the one student one, where it's set up a variable for hello world, and we can call a function and set the hello world into X, right? So when you click the function set, it will set the hello world, and we can add the value, and then it's update according to that. So as I mentioned, Remix is one of the main software that we can use to build application. It's really good for beginners. If you are a beginner into the blockchain development, we can use the Remix software to build the application. And also now let's go into the more advanced one, which is how you can integrate into a website, web application, where you need to use the Node.js NPM environment to create that. So I think some of you may use the Node.js environment. So Node.js is an open source environment. It's fully open source. where we are using not only for blockchain development, we are using for a lot of development the Node.js environment. We can use for React.js, Angular, a lot of front-end, back-end technologies, like a lot of technology stacks available inside Node environment. But here there's a specific set of frameworks available inside the Node.js to work with Solidity. So we are using Solidity. There's no change in that. We are using the Solidity, but the particular framework we are using are running in the Node.js environment. So first thing is you need to download the Node.js environment. You can download for any operating system, Windows, Linux, doesn't matter, right? Mac OS. Let me share that link as well. So once you set up your Node.js in your machine, what you can do is you can have some commands to configure your environment. So this will create a starter project. This will create a template for you to start with your blockchain solution, right? Because in the remix, we can create like a 1 contract, 2 contract, something like that. But in this method, we can create an entire solution. We can add the web interfaces. We can integrate everything together to create the final application. Let's say you want to create your own kind of NFT marketplace, or let's say you are artist, you want to showcase your own NFTs in your own kind of application. Then you can use this method, right? Then you don't need to host in OpenSea or other existing marketplace. You can build your own application where you can showcase whatever the NFTs that you have in that kind of application. And also, let's say virtual world, you can create your own virtual world and you can showcase. And there are a lot of other things also comes once you build the blockchain application, things like marketing side, where you need to market in a certain channels like Telegram networks, creating Telegram channels, right? Reddit, and there are a lot of things within that to build up the community for your specific application. That is also becoming part of the application. You need to have a good blockchain community that can be your base for your application. So let's look at how we can work on this. Here, what you need to do is you need to go to like create like empty folder, right? In here I'm using Windows. You can create like a empty folder like this, and then what you can do is you can use the command line to go into that folder, right? Command line to go into that folder like this. So then there are some set of commands that means we are using the tool set called troubleshoot. So using that, we can build like create a template and everything as a one package. So it will be really helpful to create a complete application, right? So the first command could be the installing the package. So I already run it. It will take some time. You need to only do this one time because you don't need to install every time the Truffle framework. Once you do that, you can create the project, right? So let's look at how we can create a project here, right? So what you can do is, let me create a directory, mkdir. So I can create, based on I'm following the official troubleshoot tutorial. So MetaCoin. So I'll create a virtual coin directory. This is a directory. Then I'll go into that. All right. So it's an empty directory. You can see it here. Then what I can do is I can use this command because I have already installed Truffle into my Node.js environment. So I can use the like this. I can use Truffle unbox command, unbox, then MetaCoin, right? MetaCoin, like this. Truffle unbox MetaCoin. So this will create us a template, right? So this will create us a template with all the necessary packages for our application. This will create an entire template for all the necessary application. So let me go to that folder and show you the necessary files. So let me go to that folder. So here in the test2 folder, you can see I have now MetaCoin, and here you can see I have a couple of folders here, right? I have a couple of folders here like this. So here you can see these folders, right? A different type of folders where I have the contract folders, migration and test. The contract folder containing the initial set of code for the MetaCoin itself. So I'm using VS Code for most of my development. That is a really good software where you can try it out. So the meta coin containing the contract of meta coin, transfer, send coin, get balance methods, get balance in Ethereum and get balance method is already implemented. Then there are some supporting packages there like migration. So migration means once you build a particular contract, we need to deploy it. Like you have seen two steps. We need to build it and we need to deploy it. So build means like compile the code. So the compiling the code will enable that there's no syntax errors or issues like that. Then we can deploy it. So deployment will take a particular blockchain network. So you can define a local network like I showed you here. You can define Ganache, which is a local network. Then this software also now the latest version providing some development kind of inbuilt network as well, or you can even deploy to live blockchain network as well. So here you can see a file called truffle config. That is the main file that we need to use to config. So here you can see you can define your network, right? So here is commented, you can define your network. So let's say you are connecting to the blockchain network, then you can, let's say specific Ethereum, then there's a specific set of host port and network ID for that one. Let's say you are connecting to Binance chain, there's a specific information that a connecting point for that network. So you need to enable that connecting point. It could be the test one also, because you can just then switch into the live one when you test with all the things with the test environment, and then you can just switch the IP address URL and it will be the live one. So in the live one, you need to have credits in your account because you'll be doing this against your account to deploy into the blockchain network. So the truffle config is make sure that you are configuring your network to deploy into the blockchain network. So a lot of there are a lot of blockchain networks adapt this Ethereum pattern, So you can use the similar pattern for a lot of networks, but there are new blockchains are not adapting this to similar way. So then you need to follow their SDK and some of their tutorial and documentations, how you can deploy and use that. But the concept wise is the same thing. You need to create a smart contract. It could be Solidity, or it could be now there are other languages that we can do smart contract. Then you need to compile it and build it, and then you need to deploy it. So here you can see there are different contract. Here you have the contract folder, migration, and you can even test out. There's a testing kind of a part where you can test out for any bugs or issues, things like that. You can do the testing, right? So that is what here. So here we'll look at how we can compile this. So what you can say is, we can say truffle compile, right? Truffle compile will make sure that you are compiling your contract, right? You are make sure that you are compiling your contract. So you can see successfully compiled. It's the same method. Remember in the remix, I have shown you the compile code. So it's the same thing that we are doing here, but locally in your machine. So then the next step is once you compile, we can call the next method, which is the develop. So we can call truffle develop, right? So this will enable us with the development console, which is, you can see it will again gives you some like test blockchains in the test environment. These are the accounts. There are 10 accounts with 10 private keys. Then in that, what you can do is in the development, we can call migrate. So migrate will deploy our blockchain. So we have created the meta coin, we have compiled it. Now we can deploy it, where we are going to deploy into this test blockchain network. But you can go to truffle config and you can configure into different blockchain network based on their official configuration. Then the same code will deploy into that particular network, right? So you can see the migrate command, then compiling the contract, and then after that is building and then deploying. So then finally it is going to deploy into the contract. So there's no ether scan or something because this is locally happening. And we can see the contract. There are a couple of contracts here. Migration contract.js, where it connect deploying the meta coin, is consume this much of Ethereum, and the gas values. You can see total cost and the deployment are 3 and the final cost. So likewise, it's now deployed into that test blockchain network. But similarly, you can deploy into the live blockchain network also using the file, which is truffle config file I have shown you. So you can see it's much easier. They have given a lot of tools for us to practice and develop this application. And then let's say I want to connect this with the front end. So then you need to use some of the front end code where you need to, there's this framework called Drizzle. So using the Drizzle framework, you can connect with the React interface. So your front end could be the React application. Using the Drizzle framework, you can do that. So let me show that tutorial. So here you can see Drizzle. So you can use the npm install Drizzle, and you can see it's a React-based application where we can connect our contracts, right? We can create our contracts, connect our contracts like this, right? Then we can use that in our UI interfaces, right? So you can see there's another thing I want to highlight. Once you build and compile, you can see there's a new folder called build folder. It was not there earlier, right? It was not there earlier. There's a folder called build folder. So in the build folder, you can see these files. So those 3 contract files now converted as a JSON files. So this is more like the creating an exe in our, like if you create a desktop application, it's like creating an exe. So this JSON file is the one now we are going to use in our website, web application. So you can see if you open this, you have a JSON definition where you have all this information written into a JSON, right? So where we are going to refer this JSON file to create our user interface. So you can see now this token, you can see build contract JSON, we can refer and we can build the front end from that, right? So you can go through the official documentation. This is a truffle suite. Using this, they have providing a lot of documentations how you can work with the truffle framework and how you can work with the Drizzle framework. Then you need to, of course, further familiar with the React environment as well, because in this they are not showing like how to build React application, how to create the React front end, or how to work in the React Redux kind of frameworks. That is, you need to again get familiar with, because React is not a blockchain technology, it's a web development front end framework. And also another good thing is React have React Native, which is the mobile compatible version, where if you are creating a blockchain application, that you need to create a website and mobile app at the same time. React is again a really good option where you can use React.js to build your website connecting the blockchain, and you can use React Native to connect both Android and iOS platform, and you will create an entire solution using React and Truffle and blockchain. But remember, different blockchain networks have different set of technology stack, especially new blockchain networks have different technology stack. So in that context, you cannot use Truffle, but they might also have similar set of features implemented, all adapted from this. But I have seen some blockchain networks using new languages like Lua and different languages. So where you need to then familiar with these languages to work on the blockchain network. Otherwise, you cannot deploy into this application, right? So it directly interface with the blockchain, specifically that JSON file is the main file that connecting your output with the front end. So with that, you can build an entire application, especially in the Ethereum related technology. Binance Chain also, you can follow the same way, Tron network also, but depend on some networks, as I mentioned, they are mentioning different technology stack and different implementation, but into high level, it will be really the same thing. So we need to create smart contracts, so some form of the blockchain base code. Then we need to connect that with the front end and build the application, right? There need to be a team also to build this. It will be difficult one person to do that. It takes some time. based on your idea application, what sort of applications you want to build. So that is, you can see, but you can familiar with these tools, the Solidity programming language and the tool set and the troubleshoot in order to create a blockchain application. So there are a lot of, you can see a lot of blockchain applications these days in a lot of platforms that we can use. And it will be really used by millions of users worldwide. That's why the total value of the blockchain is really a high amount, because everyone is using blockchain application. So this is a screenshot of Ganache software where you can test out locally your blockchain application development. So I have shown you the demo. So as a deployment contract, you can see the JSON method is a JSON file is the one that going to deploy, and it need to connect with the live blockchain using deployment process. If you connect with the live blockchain or test blockchain, it will deploy into that. So then you get your front end connected with your blockchain network. It's more like the front end connecting with the database in a web development application. You know, you need to have front end with the back end that going to connect to build the application. So similar to that, we can use back end as a blockchain, front end as a React, or like we can even use other technologies as well. But if you go past the NPM, then there are a little bit challenges, like if you're using .NET or Java, the support is limited, but really good support is there for React, because not only developing, you get to face a lot of bugs, issues, things like that, where you can use Stack Overflow, GitHub, like supporting these forums and things like that. There are specific forum to look at for Ethereum forums as well, for specific error messages or specific problem. So that will be also helpful you to understand these particular technologies and get a really good understanding. So if you have any questions, of course, you can ask. We have a couple more minutes to discuss these questions. We have a few more minutes, and since we are recording the session, we'll be sharing this meeting recording also after within few days. So you can also try out the steps I have shown you. If you have any questions also, you can direct to us as well. If you have any questions, you can write to us as well. So we are providing the support for you based on your journey. It could be training, consulting, or development. So just let us know what kind of support you need. So if you have any questions right now, just you can put in the chat, or you can unmute your mic. We have a few more minutes before finishing off today's meetup. But we are planning to have more meetups like that to bring you completely new topics, emerging technologies. So next month, we are planning about gaming technology, mostly the new areas in that, even how the AI also integrated into this gaming technology, and what are the advancement and what kind of things you can do. So we'll try to bring some sessions in the next meetup. So in this meetup, we discuss blockchain, and we are planning to have another meetup like this to discuss more advanced blockchain development techniques, and maybe getting an example from a real world application as well, how you can build step by step, how you can come up with the use case, and then how you can build a solution, how you can create a UI UX, something like that kind of a setup. So it'll be really helpful you to understand these technologies and concepts. So if you have any questions, of course, you can ask. We have around 4 minutes left in the meetup. You can just post any questions, or you can unmute yourself and you can ask the questions. And as I mentioned, we'll be sharing the recording as well. It will be helpful you to go through like this. Can I use Microsoft Dev ID? You mean Visual Studio? So we can, yes, Visual Studio is like Visual Studio at the moment not officially supporting with this. So the main software is a VS Code you can use, but Visual Studio you can use as a code editor only. There's no way to build or anything. But VS Code, you can see in this one, we are having this Solidity file. That means there's extension we can install, and we can even compile some part of the code in the VS Code, but not Visual Studio, because technology stack in Visual Studio is completely different, and there's no similar Microsoft technology that supports with this. So that's why at the moment you cannot use that. Mostly the VS Code is the main software you can use. Any other questions you are having? Can ask. right? So make sure to go through the Solidity. It's one of the main language that you need to get familiar with. Then the Truffle framework, and try to build a small application like the student contract I have shown you. Since we'll be sharing the video, you can look at the steps and the code that is there in the recording. Then if you have any questions, of course, you can direct to us and you can write to us like that. Any other questions you might have before we are winding up the session? Okay, so seems like no other questions. Thank you all for joining this meetup. I hope everyone learned a lot of things regarding blockchain development in this. We tend to bring more sessions like this, and we'll be sharing recording as well. Thank you all for joining. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice. Very informative.